Welcome back, you guys. Today, we are going to be tying in new drywall into an old plaster wall. So this wall actually caused me quite a bit of grief. This lath seems to be bowing out a little bit. There's an old HVAC run. So behind here, there's steel. So that's going to do two things. One of the things that it does when there is tin behind here in the stud bay is it makes it so that the plaster can't go over and hook in. It's blocked by the steel. And so that's part of the reason why we have this huge chunk of it that's fallen off, because the plaster had no keys grabbing in behind. The second thing that's going on here, like I said, is it's just not very thick. So even when I tried to put 1/4 inch drywall on here, as I was trying to flatten out this wall, it was still sticking out too much and creating a big crown in this wall. So that's why this chunk is left off. We're actually just gonna have to plaster it over, and then I'll show you guys a great method for reinforcing the plaster after, because sure, we could just fill this all up, make it smooth, and then as soon as somebody bumps the wall someday, the stuff's just gonna crack and crumble off again. So the tools for application today, 12 inch by 5 inch trowel, stainless steel, Hawk, and we are using concrete fill, which is actually a drywall product. I've talked about this in lots of my videos, you guys. It's a Western Canadian product for skimming out concrete ceilings, but it's perfect for plaster repair. Before anybody goes, well, Ben, why aren't you doing this with plaster? Because I'm not a plasterer, I do drywall repair, and I use locally available drywall products to do it. So you won't be able to find concrete fill if you're anywhere outside of Western Canada, so we're just gonna use setting type mud. Hot mud, quick set, whatever you want to call it. So it's basically just your USG light sand materials. Some people might think that Durabond would be a good product. I wouldn't recommend Durabond because it is not scrapable or sandable. Just your regular sandable setting type muds will be adequate for this kind of repair to give you a nice base coat. And if you want to give it some better adhesion, you can add a little glue like I've showed how to in plenty of other videos. Anyways, let's get right to this because this one's going to be kind of fun. Okay, so just start loading it on. Load it on thick and heavy so that you have a little bit extra. First skim can be a little bit harder to kind of press it in. I haven't left extra here yet at all. And when you go kind of back and forth, it pushes it into both sides of the crack. So really at this stage, what I'm trying to do is just work it into all the cracks and gaps so that it's nice and strong and full. So now we're gonna add extra. There has to be more material on here than is needed to float out the wall. And then we're just gonna leave it like this, come back and sand it. Can you imagine? I know we still need a lot on here. So, just gonna carry on. So that might be okay. I think we should try running the Darby across it and see what happens. So this is the Darby. It's a piece of aluminum with an edge to kind of hang on to and keep it straight. I got this at my local drywall supply place. I think it's actually for stucco or for plaster, but now we're just gonna start seeing where it's full and where it's empty. Okay, that's not too bad yet. But what I wasn't doing was pushing hard on this side, as you can see. So let's try that now. So it's looking pretty nice and flat across the middle, but we have a bit of work to do on these edges still, because obviously we don't want to be building it out like that. So as always, feather your edge. I'm gonna leave this alone because it's all pretty good, but this needs a little. And I would say that's looking pretty good. Let's leave it alone. Okay, once your hot mud has set but is not dry, now's the time to scrape down these high spots and make it a little flatter. So I usually like to take my trowel, find that does a really nice job. We got all these little bits from the lath that need to be flattened out a little bit too. And if you really need to, you can take the stuff off the back of your trowel and you can actually even fill things with it. I don't really need to here, but why not? It's flattening it out a bit. It'll help that FiberFuse sit a little bit better. Because once you scrape it, it becomes a little bit plasticky again. Okay, so this is now all flat and smooth enough. Not flat, but smooth enough. The light is really making it look worse than it is. So one of the things that we have here that we really have to fix is tons of hairline cracks. You can see there's another one as we go up here. They're everywhere. So again, that plaster is just kind of coming off. Got another one up here. So it really does extend and we do need to reinforce this wall. Okay, first let's get a piece of this FiberFuse cut. So we're going to go, you want to make sure the floor is kind of clean. I'd say I need to go up to about here with the first piece. That should do. Oh yeah, look at this stuff. 3 foot wide rolls. And now I'm gonna take a paint roller, gonna dip it in some mud that you have just below the camera line there, and I'm gonna start loading this wall full of mud. I wanna make sure it's pretty evenly spread. So this is taping mud. I would recommend using taping or all-purpose heavyweight, whatever you have in your area. In Canada, it's harder to find a heavyweight all-purpose, but we have what are called taping muds, which is a lightweight mud that's just way stickier than your all-purpose light. It's good stuff, actually. Okay, it is time to lay that FiberFuse on here. The mud's pretty thick, but I want it that way. That'll make it strong. And now, let's just lay this on here. Oh, that's wider than I need to go. Make sure it's on nice and flat. Might have to readjust it a little. You definitely don't want to be getting some big wrinkles, so work your way from the inside out. The cool thing about FiberFuse is if you don't quite get enough mud on it, you can put some more on from the outside because it goes through the weave. And now I'm actually even going to put one more really thin coat over top of all of it, and this is just to really work it in so that it wipes out really easy. You guys will see in a bit how this helps. And now I'm just using an 8-inch knife to wipe this out. As you can see, wipes really nice and flat. There was a tear in it right there, but not the end of the world. I'm not wiping hard or trying to get everything out, just making it look nice and flat and smooth. And if I see any voids, I'm kind of going back and forth over it until I know that there's mud. So it's starting to look pretty nice. I think rolling it out with the paint roller also helped really mesh it in real nice. So the cracks go pretty much right out to the edge, so I'm gonna keep going here. I cut a couple of pieces that are gonna fit. And I know the question going through some of your guys' mind is like, why didn't you just rip off the plaster and the drywall? So I do actually have an answer for that. And that is because when I get called to a job, I don't get called to start demoing the job. I get called to start making the walls nice. So there's two options you have when you show up and the walls need a lot of repairs. Option A is show up, say that everything isn't ready, tell them to make everything ready for you, like you rip out all the drywall, you do all the little bits of back framing, you do this, and I'll come back when you're ready for me. Or you look at the job and you go, okay, I know what this needs. I will bid and price accordingly, and I will get it done without a bunch of whining and without a whole bunch of extra work for the person who is contracting the job for you. So there's two ways to deal with it, and that is why when I show up, I focus on fixing the walls instead of demoing the walls, if that helps to answer your question. It also depends on what kind of work comes easier to you. So it's easier for me to use a drywall finishing solution to damage drywall than to rip everything out. The last thing I want to do when I show up somewhere is start filling up garbage bags with drywall that has to get taken to the dump. The more you rip out, the more you have to install. This little bit needs a bit more mud. It's the beauty of FiberFuse, you can wipe more mud under it. It's a nice product. And a little bit of sanding will help take care of that edge there. So what it really comes down to, you guys, is I try to show up to a job ready to solve problems, not make work for people. Simple as that. Okay, you guys, let's get a look at this. So yeah, just patching in the pieces until it's fixed. The baseboard's going to cover that at the bottom. As you can see, it's got like a bit of a texture to the wall, and it's going to shrink, and maybe some of it'll show through. It's going to take 2 more coats of mud over top of this. They will be rolled on and then skimmed out with a knife or a trowel the same way that this was done. But yeah, that's how you do it. And I think we're gonna end this video here because there was a lot there. I know some of you would love to see this actually finished. Maybe you'll just have to check out some of the future videos. I'll do some walkthroughs from time to time and make sure that you get to sort of see the stages. But I have enough videos already about rolling mud on and skimming it out, you know, 2 coats of all-purpose mud. So you really don't need to see that. And one other question that some people might have is like, well, what about this corner where you cut the FiberFuse? Now it's not an actual corner bead and the mud can kind of flake off. You know what? Don't worry about it too much. Just put that mud on, sand it, keep it looking pretty good, and I think it's gonna turn out okay. I know this one's gonna be fine. And I mean, for God's sake, you're patching nasty plaster walls. You got bigger problems to worry about than one little corner, trust me. So yeah, if you're looking for this stuff, it's the 3-foot wide FiberFuse. It's like a giant bounce sheet that doesn't smell like a bounce sheet. Yeah, this stuff is awesome. You can cut it down to whatever size you need. It's great for big holes in plaster, you know, like say a 1 foot by 1 foot hole. You just cut something that's like a little bit bigger, like a 16 by 16 square, plunk that right over top. It just does such a good job of holding everything in place and really giving it that nice broad reinforcement. So yeah, that is how to patch a plaster wall and also how to reinforce a cracked plaster wall. So there was a couple of lessons in here. There may have even been more than that. Anyways, you guys, I want to say thanks for watching. I hope you're doing really well. As always, I hope your projects are going well, but I hope you're doing even better. Thanks for watching. Till the next one.